Welcome to The Drop Retro Revisited, where nostalgia hits harder than a Power Rangers roundhouse kick. Today we're diving deep into the pixel-packed past with 8 legendary retro games that shaped gaming history, from space-blasting classics to symbiote showdowns. Let's find out which ones still hold up and which ones are best left in the arcade. Missile Command, released in the arcade in 1980. Released by Atari in 1980, Missile Command threw players into the hot seat of the city's last line of defense during the Cold War era. Using a trackball to target incoming missiles, players had to protect 6 cities from waves of nuclear annihilation. The gameplay was fast, frantic, and oddly emotional for its time. What made it iconic wasn't just the gameplay, but the dread it evoked, a reflection of real-world nuclear fears. It was a smash hit in arcades, cementing itself as one of the most important titles over the Golden Age. Its gameplay inspired countless defense-style games that followed, and that infamous game over screen showing your cities in ruins. Pure digital heartbreak. Does it hold up? Absolutely. The simplicity, rising difficulty, and Twitch-based strategy still make it fun and stressful to this day. If you've got a retro itch or want to experience raw arcade tension, Missile Command is a timeless blast from the past. Pun fully intended. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, released on Sega Genesis in 1995. Based on the 1995 film and the wildly popular TV series, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, on Sega Genesis, was a classic side-scrolling beat-em-up and a total playground fantasy for 90s kids. Developed by Banpresto, it let you morph into your favorite ranger and unleash some satisfying combo attacks on waves of putties, monsters, and bosses straight from the show. You could play solo or team up for 2-player co-op, which honestly doubled the fun. The sprite art was colorful and detailed, the music was high energy, and you even got some Megazord action. Critics at the time gave it mixed reviews for being repetitive, which it totally is, but that never stopped fans from loving it. Today, it's definitely more of a nostalgic ride than a gameplay masterpiece. But if you were obsessed with the show, it's still a fun trip. Just grab a buddy, crank the cheesy soundtrack, and yell, "It's Morphin' time!" Space Invaders, released to the arcade in 1978. This is where it all began. Space Invaders, released in 1978 by Taito and designed by Tomohiro Nishikado, is the godfather of arcade shooters. You control a tiny laser cannon defending Earth from descending rows of alien invaders that slowly speed up as their numbers dwindle. The gameplay loop is simple, addictive, and surprisingly intense. Believe it or not, this game was so popular it caused a shortage of 100 yen coins in Japan. It marked a turning point for the video game industry, establishing high scores, leaderboards, and the whole arcade quarter muncher model. It also inspired countless clones and innovations in the shooter genre. Today, it's a little primitive by modern standards, sure, but there's a weird hypnotic rhythm to its gameplay that still pulls you in. Plus, its pixel-perfect aesthetic has aged into iconic status. Space Invaders may be pushing 50, but when you fire it up, that slow crawl of doom still feels like pure video game history. Blaster Master, released for the NES in 1988. Blaster Master is one of the NES's weirdest and most beloved cult classics. Developed by Sunsoft and released in 1988, the game kicks off when your pet frog jumps into a radioactive pit, and you, naturally, hop into a high-tech tank to chase him through an underground, mutant-infested labyrinth. The gameplay is a wild mashup of side-scrolling platforming in your tank, Sophia, and top-down shooting sections where you hop out on foot. What really made Blaster Master shine was its sense of exploration, non-linear world, and genuinely excellent level design, like a more action-heavy cousin to Metroid. It didn't get much buzz at release, but it grew a loyal fan base and spawned a bunch of sequels and remakes. The controls are still tight, the music slaps, and the tank just feels awesome to drive. Does it hold up? Absolutely. If you're into NES-era challenges and games that actually reward curiosity, Blaster Master is still a blast. Twisted Metal Black, released for the PlayStation 2 in 2001. When Twisted Metal Black hit the PS2 in 2001, it wasn't just a car combat game. It was a full-blown psychological thriller with rocket launchers. Developed by Incognito and led by God of War's David Jaffe, this gritty reboot took the franchise in a much darker direction. The characters weren't just edgy, they were damaged, twisted, and horrifying. You've got Sweet Tooth, the deranged clown, Mr. Grimm, the death-obsessed biker, and a host of other maniacs, all competing in a deadly demolition derby. The gameplay was brutally satisfying. Dodge, drift, and blast your way through hellish arenas. The vehicle handling was a bit heavy, but learning each character's strength and specials was part of the fun. Critics loved it, fans went wild, and it became one of the PS2's early hits. Does it hold up today? Mechanically, it's aged a bit, but stylistically and thematically, it's still a masterclass in tone. If you're into chaotic, macabre action, Black still hits hard. Dragon's Lair, released for the arcade in 1983. Dragon's Lair was like nothing anyone had ever seen in 1983. Instead of pixelated sprites or blocky visuals, you got a full-blown cartoon, courtesy of ex-Disney animator Don Bluth, that you could actually play. Kind of. The game ran on Laserdisc technology, letting players control Dirk the Daring through a high fantasy castle of death traps, dragons, and slapstick failure. But here's the catch. It was essentially one long, brutal QuickTime event. Press the wrong direction or delay for even a second and Dirk would die, often hilariously. It looked amazing, especially for the time, and became an instant arcade magnet. However, its gameplay was controversial. Some loved the cinematic innovation, others hated the lack of real control. Today, it's more appreciated as an interactive animation experiment than a true game. Does it hold up? As a piece of gaming history, absolutely. As something fun to play? Probably not. But watching it still feels like flipping through an 80s fantasy cartoon. Final Fantasy Tactics, released on the PlayStation 1 in 1995. If you like your fantasy with a side of political betrayal and grid-based warfare, Final Fantasy Tactics is the holy grail. Released for the PlayStation in 1997 in North America, in 1995 in Japan, this strategy RPG blended the deep mechanics of Tactics Ogre with the lore and magic of Final Fantasy. You play as Ramza, a noble caught in a Game of Thrones-style conflict filled with backstabbing, class warfare, and demonic conspiracies. The job system is legendary, with dozens of classes to unlock, from Black Mage to Samurai to Calculator. Yes, really. What made Tactics shine was its depth. Positioning, turn order, terrain, every move matters. Critics loved it, though its brutal difficulty curve scared off some casual players. Today, it's considered a masterpiece, with re-releases like War of the Lions improving the translation and adding extras. Final Fantasy Tactics remains an all-time great. It absolutely holds up, and in fact there's a case to be made that it's never really been topped. It also looks like we've got an HD remaster coming out very shortly. Venom and Spider-Man, Separation Anxiety, released for the SNES in 1995. Following up on the success of Maximum Carnage, Separation Anxiety brought Venom and Spider-Man back to the beat-em-up stage for another round of side-scrolling justice. Released in 1995 for the Sega Genesis and SNES, this one had you punching your way through hordes of symbiote goons and criminal scum as either Spidey or Venom. The visuals leaned hard into the comic book style with bold colors and thick outlines, and the action was non-stop. Punch, jump, swing, repeat. The game didn't reinvent the genre, but it didn't need to. It was all about that classic 2D arcade brawling with a side of Marvel flair. Critics knocked it for being too samey and lacking innovation, but fans who grew up in the 90s adored it. The real win? 2-player co-op. Teaming up as friends to take down Carnage felt awesome. Does it hold up? Kinda. It's repetitive, sure, but if you've got a friend and a soft spot for retro Marvel, it's still worth web slinging into. Still feeling that 8-bit buzz? Hit that like button and subscribe for your weekly dose of retro goodness. Feel free to drop a comment below with your favorite throwback game. Until next time, keep it classic.